Hi everyone, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie. I'm here today to do a update on my reading goals for 2023 for the first quarter. I know this is a few days early. I was originally going to film this and post this after March had ended, but I have decided to do something specifically about my goals in April, and I'll talk about that later in the video. So I wanted to have this up in March so that I could just go straight into that. We're going to go through the goals now. When I did my original video talking about these, which I will link below, I did do year-long goals and also quarter one goals. So I will be wrapping up both of those, talking about my progress, but also looking at the goals and seeing if they're still relevant to me, if I should change them slightly, and things like that. So let's jump straight in. The first main goal that I had was to end the year with equal or less books than I started with. And obviously this is something that is completely dependent on the rest of the year. I started with 313 books, and right now as I am filming this, I'm at 310, but I do have 3 rather large book events. One that is this weekend, one in April and one in June, as well as the possibility that there will be others later in the year. So we're gonna see how that goes. And this is definitely one I will talk about when I get into setting some goals for quarter two. Next one is my goal of reading 180 books. As of right now, I am on track to do that. I need to finish 5 more books by the end of the month, but I think that is doable. I'm pretty sure I'm going to finish one tonight and perhaps even one tomorrow. And then I still have a few more days after that to finish up a couple more. So I've been doing pretty well with that. In January and February, I read more than I needed to both those months. So it does mean that I am sitting in a good spot with this one at the moment. I am still going to keep this at 180 midway through the year. Maybe if I'm doing super well, I might bump this up, but right now I'm comfortable with where it is. Then we go into my haul revisit related goals. So I have 3 years that I'm doing, that I'm tracking for this, 2020, 2021, and 2022. In 2020, my goal was to get to 20 books. Right now I am sitting on 32, and at the start of the year I was at 36, so a little bit of progress there. 2021, my goal is to be under 100. I started the year at 129, and right now I am at 108, so some really good progress there. And for 2022, my goal was also to be under 100. I started the year with 135, and right now I'm at 124, which isn't as good as the 2021 ones, but is still pretty good. Next, I wanted to continue or finish 50 series, and I had specific series that I wanted to work on. I haven't done any of those. I have continued / finished 2 series so far this year, so this goal isn't going great, but that's definitely something I will be talking about again when we get to those quarter 2 goals. Next one was to cycle through my KU alongside the Read My Kindle project that I am hosting. So we'll talk about a little bit about that in a second. And then the last 2 things I had were that my friend picks were returning, and when I posted my goals video originally, that video wasn't up yet, and it went up later in January, so that is there, and I'm gonna talk about that in a second as well. And finally, I also had some self-destruct books. I had 12, and we'll talk about that in a second as well. So now we're going to go into the ones that I specifically did for quarter one, and we'll talk about how I am going with those, and then we will assess and talk about quarter two goals. My first goal for quarter one was to read at least 10 of my friend picks. This would keep me up to date with the first 3 months worth of people. So I have read 9 of them, but I'm waiting on some library holds, so I just couldn't get to another one. Timing just didn't work out, but I did post my videos for Meredith and for Mel, so I'll link those down below and you can go and watch them if you haven't. Next one was to complete the bingo board for Read My Kindle. So this is a challenge project thing that I am running that is open for anyone to join, and every 2 months there is a new bingo board. So my original plan for the first quarter was to finish the bingo board for January and February. I didn't manage to do that. I read 6 or I marked off 6 out of the 9, and I have a whole video going through those. I'll link that below. So I didn't complete the bingo board, but this kind of goes with the cycling through my Kindle Unlimited and my ebooks, and I'm pretty happy with the progress I have made, even if I can't mark off things on the bingo board for the ones I've been reading. I have been reading quite a bit on there, and things are moving around and it's not feeling as stale, which it was the whole purpose. Next, one of the other things I mentioned was a themed vlog I was doing. At the time I had 8 books left to read. That vlog is out. That was my Goodreads, reading through the last 10 years of the Goodreads nonfiction category. I'll link that below, and I did that. I read all 8 of them. Technically I read 9 because I messed it up and I read one book I didn't even have to read. But that's that. So that's done. Very happy about that. And then I had the goal to read at least 3 of the self-destruct picks. I actually ended up unhauling 2. One of them it just came to it and I was like, I don't actually want to read this. This is not interesting to me anymore. I'm just going to unhaul it. And then the second I did try to read and found that the writing style wasn't for me. I'm going to wait until the end of the year or the start of 2024 before I do a wrap up, and I'll talk about them all at the one time. But right now I'm also partway through another one, and I am due to start another one after that in a week or 2. So not feeling too bad about those goals. The only other things I did note down was that I had my first romance event of the year in February, which also went super well, and I didn't walk away with too many books. Again, I will link the video I did about that down below. I did a little haul, and the other one is a secondhand event in March, which is this weekend. So I don't know how that went for me, but my partner and I are going in with a plan, which is we're just setting the amount that we can spend, and we'll see how we go from there. But that's quarter one. So let's jump into quarter 2 and talk about the goals that I will be setting myself for April, May, and June. This is a very busy period. So it has my 2 romance events in, and it also has Eurovision-a-thon and probably a whole bunch of other things in my personal life and with work and etc. So it should be an interesting quarter. And I will talk about those things in a moment, but let's jump in with the reading specific goals. Firstly, we're going to start with friend picks. Now, my plan with this one is to read 9, and that will again catch me up for the 3 people whose videos I need to post in the next 3 months. Ideally, I would like to get ahead, but I'm just setting it at 9 so that I at least have those ones done. And if I don't get ahead, like that might not happen until June, but that's fine. The only other thing I do have is that I do have 3 books that I need to reread in order to read things that people have picked for me. So I have to reread earlier books in the series in order to read the one that they picked. So I want to do those 3 rereads in the next 3 months so that when I do get to those vlogs, I'm ready to go and I don't have to reread things before even getting to the books. With my haul revisits for 2020, my goal is to just get under 30. So right now I'm sitting at 32. So I just need to read 3 books and I think that'll be relatively easy. I think I have 2 that are already like on a TBR for something. So hopefully it should be all right just to get through 3. For 2021, I want to get to 100. I'm on 108. Again, 8 books in 3 months seems doable. A good number of these I think are on my Eurovision TBR and things like that. So hopefully, again, it should be relatively easy. And then for 2022, I want to get down to 115 and I'm on 124 right now. So that's 9. Again, quite a few of these are on my Eurovision-a-thon TBR, but also a number of things that I'm reading right now and will hopefully finish by the end of March, if not in the first few days of April, are also from 2022. So hopefully by finishing them off, I can then mark them off. Now, the next one is with series. I really did not focus on this at all in the first 3 months. So I want to make I can't think of the word that I want to use, but I want to make this like an active goal that I am working on. And a lot of this will sort of come into play with my romance events because I will be continuing series that I started for those events so that I could test out the authors and see who I wanted to order from. So I will be then continuing their books and continuing their series, which should be good. And then, yeah, we're going to talk about, those are the goals. We're going to talk about some sort of events. The first of which is why I'm doing this video now, and that is that I want to spend the first 14 days of April dedicated to working on these goals. I don't have specific ones set up at the moment. It's going to kind of depend on what I end up finishing by the end of March, but I definitely want to make some good headway on my TBR. So I want to be making sure that I am reading books that I own. I spent a lot of time reading ebooks and library books in January and February, which is great. Like I wanted to do those things, but I also need to rein that in just a little so that I can be focusing on getting that number down, with the knowledge that Rare, which is the first of those 2 romance events, is at the end of April and I will be getting a lot of books. So I just want to make sure that my TBR is at the lowest that I can kind of get it in those 2 weeks, so that when it comes to it, like, yeah, it's gonna bump the number up a lot, but not as much as if I didn't work on it at all. And then in the second half of April, I will be doing Eurovision-a-thon. I will have my TBR up for that in early April, and I will talk more about my specific goals relating to that in that video. I'm super excited though. This is my favorite readathon, so I am beyond excited to get into it and to talk about these books and read them and have a good time. So with Rare and Babe, so Rare is in April and Babe is in June. Hi friend. I'm getting a lot of books from these events. We don't get romance events here in Australia very often. It is mind-blowing that we have like 3 this year. You look so cute. Thank you, friend. So I'm getting a lot of books. I don't feel bad about it. I'm not going to stress myself out about it. But I will, at this point, I think I'm going to do a 0 buy month in May because, yeah, it's April and then June. So I feel like May, trying not to buy too many things, if anything, and just working on, again, trying to sort of get my TBR down a little bit so that I don't have to stress later in the year. And like, I know this is going to bump my TBR up by a lot from both events, and yeah, there's literally like a month and a couple of days between them. So definitely will be doing my best to work on that. And I have a couple of things organized and planned for that, so you will see some of those. And then finally, the last thing I wanted to mention was in that original video, I was also talking about YouTube related goals. And at the time I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going to reach 1,000, which I have now. And thank you all so much for that. I know most of you new subscribers came from that Goodreads vlog, so I really appreciate you hanging around. Even though you probably realize that I don't really read that much non-fiction in, my reading. Usually I will, read a couple a month, but not quite to that extent. So thank you all for joining. But what I did say in that original video was that my goal was to take breaks. And I took a break in January for the second half of Jan, and that was really nice. It was really nice. So I'm just saying in here that I'm going to also take a break in June, specifically a couple of days after Babe, which is the 9th and 10th of June. I'm going to give myself a couple of days because the event is in Sydney, and Angel and I are flying up to Sydney for it and staying for a few days. And then I want to come back and be able to film my haul. So after that, I will be taking another break, probably another 2 or 3 weeks off. Also, I just feel like I get a bit slumpy in this sort of middle point of the year. And I just feel like it's a good point to like take a break, reevaluate things and reinvigorate myself a little bit, and then come back and do the next half of the year. Again, we'll probably take another break maybe around October or so. I'm not really sure, but we'll take a nice little break there probably too. But I will, of course, once I have the actual dates planned out and all that sort of thing, I will share that with you all in other videos and community posts and all that good stuff. But that is the end of the goals for the first quarter. I'm feeling pretty good about them. So I'm hoping there's none that I'm kind of like, let's just get rid of this. I'm hoping by the end of the second quarter that I will still be feeling good about that, and that I will, have some good progress. And of course, I will be sharing how I do with the first 2 weeks of April, focusing on these things. I'm not going to do a TBR or anything. I am just going to do a vlog of those 2 weeks, and we'll see how I go with them. But that's all for today. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you're doing super well, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.